Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Kyuubi Was Sealed in Twin Sister of Naruto Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto, 8 years old. Naruto was walking down a busy Konoha street with a smile plastered on his face. He didn't usually smile, but tomorrow was the day when the academy started and he was finally old enough to attend. Being a ninja has been a dream of mine since my father was the Hokage. The other probably more important reason he wanted to be a ninja is for self-defense from those monsters known as villagers and the assassination attempts. He has a younger brother and sister who have already begun their training by their father and mother as well as the Sannin Jiraiya and Tsunade. He frowned at the thought of his younger siblings. While walking he couldn't help but notice the glares from everyone pointed at him and someone actually pit in front of his path, but he didn't care, nothing could ruin his day. He reached the main gate of the relatively small Namikaze compound compared to the Uzumaki compound to the right and the Uchiha compound to the right of the Uzumaki. Both compounds were massive with the main household in the front while hundreds of other homes belonging to other clan members behind the main one. He walked toward the door and entered his home to be greeted by an empty house. Hearing the sounds of my parents in the back with two other people talking about something, he walked out onto the field to see his father and mother Setsuna in front of two panting twins Arashi and Kaomi. Arashi basically looked like a smaller version of Minato. He stood at a 4'6", a little bit taller than most 7-year-olds, and he also had his father's blue ocean eyes. The only difference between him and Minato was the fact that he had spiky red pale-colored hair and had 3 whiskers RKS on each cheek. Arashi's twin sister also stood at the same height as her twin and had the same color eyes and whisker marks. Her hair was also red except had a fierier look as it reached her mid-back. She was basically the stunning carbon copy of her mother. Hello to San, I was wondering if you can train me today before I go to the academy tomorrow. Minato looked at me slightly annoyed and he then looked like he remembered something and looked at Setsuna, who gave a nod, before he looked at Naruto, your mother and I have decided to not enroll you in the academy this year, but we will next year with your brother and sister. My heart stopped for a second before it started up again. He felt 2 strong emotions welling up inside of him. One was anger at my family and the other sadness for having to go another year before he could accomplish his goal of being the most prominent ninja in Konoha. He pushed his anger to the side and put a small smile. Can I at least train with you and Ka-san? Quote. He may have said it a little too hopefully, but he really wanted a start to learn something now before he went to the academy to get a head start. No, not now. I'm training Arashi and Kasumi to gain control of their yokai. But now I can't finish because you interrupted me, so I have to go to work now. He could sense the venom in his voice as he said the last part, which angered him, but he didn't show it as his dad disappeared in a flash. He sighed and turned to his mother. Can you teach me Ka? No. She didn't even let him finish before she walked away into the house. So this is what family is for. Throw your love to the youngest siblings and leave the eldest to the wolves. Single quote. Thanks a lot Naruto Baka, now we can't learn our first jutsu. Arashi spat. You already are learning how to do ninjutsu. He was shocked. So can you teach me how to use some too when you're done? Quote. Kaomi sneered at me, as did Arashi. As if we would teach you anything. They both laughed together before they walked inside to get a warm hug from their mother. He couldn't believe how horrible his family was to him, especially his parents. They are the people who were supposed to take care of him. He could feel all the anger swelling in his head at the very thought of his family. If those bastards won't teach me, then I will do it myself, he thought. He quickly headed out of the compound and into the shinobi district where the library was that kept most of the scrolls on shinobi basics and J.U.T.S.U. He quietly entered and avoided being seen by the pink-haired banshee head librarian and council women that just hated me. He looked around and found the off-limits area for shinobi only. Casting his gaze around, he saw no one looking and quickly entered the shinobi section. He pulled out my black bag which he brought from his room before he left. He scanned the scrolls and started pulling all of the ones he was interested in. Basic chakra control. Need that, he thought as he put it in, also with some scrolls on basic taijutsu, ninjutsu, and kenjutsu, and 2 with chalk. Raw control exercises. He quickly glanced over the other scrolls and landed his eyes on one that said ninjutsu, elemental ninjutsu. He reached out to grab the scroll, but when he touched it he felt a soft hand over mine. He looked over to the side to see how the owner of the opposing hand was and was surprised to see a girl my age with red hair with 2 bangs on each side of her soft heart-shaped face. Her hair was pretty long and it went down to her butt. She was wearing an orange short-sleeved blouse that had a zipper with a mesh belt over her stomach region. She also wore tight black biker shorts that stopped above her knees and she had black ninja sandals. He came out of his thoughts when she started talking. Let go of the scroll, I saw it first, she said in a hushed voice. No way, I need it too and I had it first, so back off. He also replied back quietly. Well, I probably need it more than you, and what will I do when I finish reading all these scrolls on chakra control and exercises, while pulling up her bag filled with scrolls, if I don't have any jutsu to use after? Quote. Well, I also need the scroll for the same reason. He said, also pulling up my bag filled with scrolls, and besides, you're not even a genin, so what are you doing in here? You're not even a genin yet either. She countered back. They were having a glaring match until they heard footsteps coming our way. They both inwardly cursed before she grabbed his hand and tried to pull around a corner but forgot her bag she was dragging across the floor, which he tripped on. He hurriedly turned around so his back landed on the floor, but because the girl was still holding his hand, fell right on top of him. The footsteps stopped and he knew they were caught. He could feel the gaze of the Haruno women and waited for the worst until he heard a squeal. Oh, how cute, such young love. Sorry for disturbing you, she said in a squeal, obviously not knowing or seeing who he was before she walked away. He let out a sigh before reopening his eyes to see the girl's face only inches apart from his own. She took a while before she regained her composure and pulled away from his face so that she was now straddling his waist while mumbling something along the lines of, sorry. She then got off him and he pulled himself up, sporting a blush which he soon hid. You can have the scroll, I don't need it anymore. She mumbled while looking away. No, you can have it. It was my fault, we nearly got caught, so you can have it. He said, trying to be nice since it was his fault they got caught. No, I couldn't, you did get it first. She said, also trying to be nice. He was quickly getting tired of the conversation, so he decided to end it. How about we share it? He suggested while pulling out a brush and an empty scroll from his bag and then looked at her. She nodded her head and he got to work. He opened the scroll and started to copy everything on it to the best of his ability, not really paying attention to the words as he wrote them down. After about 10 minutes he finished the copy and stood up. He handed her the original and put the copy in his bag. Why did you give me the original? I'm sure you would deserve it more since you went to the trouble of copying it so we wouldn't kill each other for it. Quote. He smiled at her and she blushed, not that he noticed. I gave you the original so that if we got caught you would have the original, while I had something that looks like my notes from the academy so I won't get in as much trouble as you. Quote. What? She silently screamed. Shish, we are in a library. He couldn't help but chuckle at her facial expression. He made his way towards the exit before he heard a distinct, wait. He turned around to see the red-handed girl playing with her fingers before she said, can I know your name? Quote. He smiled at her. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. So what's your name? You're the son of, I mean, my name is Kushina. Kushina Uzumaki. she said, shocked that she just met the Hokage's son. Well, Kushina-chan, it was nice to meet you, but it's time for me to go home. He made his way outside unnoticed yet again and headed for the Namikaze compound. After a minute he noticed someone was following him. He turned around and saw Kushina walking in the same direction as he was heading. Why are you following me? She grew a visible tick mark on her head. I'm not following you. I'm heading to my compound, which just happens to next your small one. He waited for her to catch up to him before he started walking again. They walked in silence for a while until he decided to break the ice and talk first. So why were you in the shinobi section, Kushina-chan? So why were you in the shinobi section, Naruto-san? Well, stop copying me. Stop copying me. They both yelled at the same time, making all the attention come on them as the people on the street stared at them with amusement, and some with anger that the demon had found an innocent girl to eat or something. Getting quickly annoyed from the conversation yet again, he says, I was there because my two-san decided to put me in the academy next year instead of this year so I can be the same class as my stuck-up younger twin brother and sister. Quote. Kushina looked stunned. That's exactly what my parents did to me, so I can be in the same class as the amazing twin heroes of Konoha. He couldn't help but chuckle at the way she said it. He looked back at the street we were walking on and stopped. Well, this is my stop. So, see you around. He opened the gate and walked to the front door of the compound, but he could hear a faint bye. He walked inside and moved toward the kitchen and heard laughter from the rest of his family. He could hear the distinct voice of Minato talking to his two youngest children. You two are going to be the best shinobi in the world, and I'll eventually have to give my hat to one of you. Yatu-san will become the best just like you and show the world. Quote. Setsuna smiled at her children before she started to pick up the empty plates from the table and put them in the sink and started to wash them. Ka-san, did you just finish having dinner? Yes, we did, but since you decided to come home so late today, I don't think you deserve dinner tonight. Quote. Okay, was his only answer. This was how it always was in this damn house. If he came even 2 minutes late, he wouldn't get dinner, and he thinks they actually enjoy it when he's not here. He made his way up to his room and locked it. He took out all the scrolls he had from his bag and dumped them on his small bed. From now on I will do nothing but train, he mentally told himself, unaware someone was listening. But before he starts, he flipped his hands through a few hand seals and slammed his hand on my bedroom floor effectively, putting up a privacy seal, which he borrowed from his two-san's personal library, so no one can tell what he was doing. He picked up the first scroll he could reach and began to read. From now on I will write in first person, Naruto, and third, but the main character will still be Naruto. I will write in third person when there are too many people together or talking, but I won't switch right in the middle of a sentence. I'll switch when there is a pause in the story. Time skip 1 year. Naruto woke up late again from all the intensive training he put himself through. Tiredly he got out of bed and looked at the calendar for a few seconds before his eyes widened in shock. Shit, the academy starts today. Naruto jumped out of bed and went straight into his bathroom and took the fastest shower known to man, brushed his teeth in less than a minute. Putting on a pair of black shinobi pants and a black short-sleeved shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on the front in red, then putting on his orange hoodie with blue on his shoulders, ran to the door, slipping his black sandals on, and ran through the now empty house. Figures those bastards would forget to wake me. Naruto started to jump from rooftop to rooftop in an attempt to get there faster. After a minute Naruto was on the academy grounds, but the bell was about to ring. Looking up, the blonde saw the window of the classroom open. Focusing chakra into his feet like he had practiced so many times, and jumped up to the third story and landed in the classroom. Once Naruto landed in the class, everyone's eyes were on him except for Iruka's, because he was staring at the Door probably waiting for when the bell rang. He sighed and turned around to see the last person he was waiting for right in front of him. He nearly had a heart attack. Naruto, good to see you made it on time. Why don't you take a seat? Quote. Scanning the class, seeing all of which seemed to be clan heirs and some other clan members with a few civilians, kids of ninja. Naruto could see the front row filled and the second and third also, which left the last back row with only one seat open. Walking to the back of the class, one took a seat on the end next to the window next to a familiar redhead. Hi Naruto-san. Naruto looked next to him to see Kushina next him looking the same and wearing what he saw her wearing the last time they meet in the library. She hadn't changed much except that she was slightly taller but still the same as Naruto. The only difference was that her zipper on her orange short-sleeved blouse was pulled down to show a little bit of cleavage of her BB cups. She also wore the same mesh belt over her stomach region and had tight biker shorts that stopped right above her knees. Naruto smiled at her. Hello Kushina-chan. Kushina blushed at the honorifics and turned away to look at Iruka. Iruka started to talk about the origin of the village and something that Naruto just ignored and looked outside, getting lost in his thoughts. So let's see, I have the emo king, pink-haired banshee, and fangirls. At least the others have a chance. Naruto. 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 Iruka yelled, trying to get the blonde's attention. Naruto turned to Iruka and gave a glare. What do you want? Iruka's tick mark grew to dangerous levels and you could see it pulsing. I want you to tell me who the second Hokage's assistant was. Naruto looked at Iruka once before looking outside again. I did not expect it to be like this for the greatest village's academy. Iruka sighed before looking back to the rest of the class. Everyone outside for practice spars to see where you're at. Outside. Naruto walked outside with the class to a sparring ring where Iruka and his assistant Mizuki were telling everyone the rules and showing basic stances for the few that didn't know how to fight. After half an hour, Iruka called him. Naruto, could you please step in the ring with me for a demonstration? The class were snickering at his misfortune, but he didn't care. He'll show them all when this village will bow down to him. He entered the ring with a blank, unreadable face. Now the rules are simple: no ninjutsu or genjutsu, only taijutsu, and weapons are allowed. Iruka explained, pulling out two long 1-foot kunai trying to intimidate him. He smirked, pulling up his sleeves slightly, and then pumped some chakra into the seal on his wrist and a long sword popped into my open hand. Iruka was surprised while the class was shocked. He had a weapon that large hidden. He charged at Iruka and slashed downward while he blocked with one kunai and tried to slash Naruto's stomach. He used the leverage of the first kunai that blocked his sword and performed a frontward flip with his feet landing on each of Iruka's shoulders. He concentrated chakra into his feet before he propelled off of him, making him lose his balance. Naruto landed on one of the wooden posts side using his chakra to stick to it before he pushed off of it, heading straight for Iruka. Iruka saw him coming and bent backwards at a sickening angle while Naruto flew overhead, his sword missing his face by a centimeter, cutting his ponytail clean off. Iruka saw his hair fall in slow motion as it hit the floor and something exploded in him. Iruka jumped at him at Chunin speeds as he tried to put his fingers together for the hand seal. Iruka was too fast though, and he slashed at him with both kunai, cutting of his hoodie's sleeves. He jumped to the side trying to find an opening. Iruka jumped at him again, slashing down at him. He parried the first kunai, but the second cut his wrist and blood started to pour out. Iruka was about to call the match, but he pulled off his hoodie's sleeves and tied them around his wrist to stop the bleeding. He put his hands together and muttered, "Kai." He felt his body become lighter as the gravity seal seat on level 5 dropped to 0. He tightened the grip on his sword and charged Iruka. Iruka parried the sword and slashed forward at him only to meet thin air. He reappeared on the other side of the ring and put his left hand out and made a calm hither motion. Iruka didn't want to end up killing one of his students or the opposite, so he wanted to end this fast. pulling out a giant shuriken out of somewhere and threw it at Naruto. He bent backward similar to Iruka, and as the shuriken was about to fly past him, he put his hand through the hole in the center and caught it. He jumped up in the air and threw it at Iruka, who sidestepped it, but to his shock the shuriken headed straight for the class. Sasuke, pulling out a tiny kunai and standing in front of the class, think if he just stood there he would be able to block it with his elite Uchiha skills. Until his sister Sukina yelled for everyone to get down, pulling Sasuke down with her, with the entire class following their example. The giant shuriken flex over the class lodged itself in the wall next to a door where a certain pink-haired banshee just came back from the bathroom. The banshee let out a shriek and the smell of urine filled the area before it went back inside to the bathroom. Iruka sighed and Naruto saw his opening, and he rushed forward and pressed his sword edge to Iruka's neck, drawing some blood. Iruka put his hands up in defeat and shame in losing to a first-day academy student. He pulled his sword back and it disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto walked toward the class, hearing stuff like, "He's not so tough. Sasuke-kun is way better. I bet the twins are twice as good," and the rest were just quiet. "Hey Dobi, how about you teach me everything you know and be of good use to me and my clan of elites?" Sasuke said with the emo smirk that made him king. He ignored him and kept walking until he heard Kushina call me. "Naruto, that was amazing. Could you teach me that sometime? I'm really interested in Kenjutsu." Kushina said, giving him the cutest puppy dog eyes ever. "Sure, whatever," Naruto replied. "Naruto Baka, only great ninja need moves like that, so why don't you teach use?" Arashi and Kaomi said with a sneer. He just gave them one look and walked away, ignoring them, heading toward the gate. "Naruto, where are you going?" Kushina asked him. He stopped. "To the hospital before I pass out from blood loss," he said, pointing to his bloody wrist. And Naruto-san, I could help heal your wrist," a new voice said. Naruto turned around and saw a girl his height with long blood-colored hair done into a ponytail with two bangs falling on each side of her face, framing her beautiful heart-shaped face with pale ocean blue eyes. She had an hourglass figure with a generous bust. She wore a short orange zip-up jacket that showed her toned stomach. There was blue on the lower part of the sleeves and the sides of the jacket. She had on black biker shorts like Kushina's that stopped just below her waist. She also had on tight elastic pull-up socks that stopped above her knees while wearing black ninja sandals. "You can?" he asked. "Yes, I learned about medical ninjutsu before I enrolled in the academy," she replied with a shy smile. He pulled off his now blood-soaked sleeves and threw them out, and then sat down on a bench next to the class. The girl and Kushina sat down on both sides of me. He held out his wrist to the girl and she took it in her hand, and a green soothing aura surrounded their hands. "So what's your name?" he asked in his usual emotionless voice with a little bit of kindness. "Natsumi," she replied with a smile made him blush and turn away. He noticed half the guys in the class were giving him looks of anger, probably just jealous. "So Natsumi-chan, where did you learn medical ninjutsu?" he asked, looking at her face, seeing it was covered in red. He put his free hand to her forehead and felt that it was warm. "Hey Natsumi-chan, maybe you should heal yourself. I think you have a fever." He put his hand down and noticed her face got even redder. Kushina giggled at their interactions but felt a little jealous, but she pushed it aside. Just then another girl came who was obviously an Uchiha, but she didn't look stuck up like Sasuke. Hi, I'm Sukina, Sasuke's older sister, and I just wanted to apologize for the way he acted after your fight." He looked at her, causing her to blush. "Are you really an Uchiha?" Kushina and Natsumi face-palmed their heads. "Yes, I'm an Uchiha. Why were you expecting me to be all bitchy or something?" Her voice becoming louder. "No, never. I am so fucked." Sukina automatically smiled. "Good, so can you tell me where you learned all those cool moves?" Quote. "Sure thing," he said, giving a small smile. This is going to be the longest 5 years of my life. Time skip 5 years, Naruto 13. Naruto jumped through the window, startling Iruka yet again. Ever since the first day at the academy, Naruto has always been arriving into class through the window to Iruka's displeasure. After greeting Iruka, he walked to the back of the class and took his usual seat next to the window, which also happened to be where Kushina, Natsumi, Sukina, and the newest member of their group, Makoto. Naruto met Makoto in his second year at the academy when she saved his life when she found him bleeding out next to a dead man with a sword impaled in his lower abdomen. She quickly took him to the hospital where the only doctor who would treat him was located, which happened to be Shizune. Afterwards, Naruto introduced her to the others and she quickly set it off with them and then always joined them, being officially part of the group of 4, now 5. Makoto was a girl with long raven black hair that went to her mid-back and she had 2 bangs that barely cover her forehead. She had cold black eyes that didn't match her sweet personality and pretty face. She usually wore a blue blouse with the Uchiha symbol on the back and black shinobi pants that hugged her body in all the right places. The blouse was a little zipped down to show her a little bit of her C-cup. But as a consequence for being friends with the 4 hottest and girls in the academy meant that he had no friends of the same because they were jealous, just hated him, didn't care, and the rest were classified as gay in his books. Shut the hell up. Iruka yelled using his personal patented big head jutsu. Today class is the day we find out which of you has what it takes to be shinobi, Iruka announced to the class, gaining their full attention. In the Genin exam we will give you a written test, then we will hold a taijutsu match against either me or Mizuki. You will have 1 minute to land a hit on one of us. Then we will come inside for the ninjutsu test where you will have to perform a kawarimi, henge, then make 3 bunshin. Iruka and Mizuki started passing out tests and soon as he got his he noticed a weak genjutsu and dispelled it and started the test. After 5 minutes he put my pencil down from filling out the test, purposefully getting some wrong. After half an hour Iruka picked up the tests and graded them with a smile. Okay, everyone outside for the taijutsu portion of the exam. Iruka said, leading the class out said to a familiar sparring ring. Some of the rounds were the pathetic performances by the other civilian student and some of the clan heirs did slightly better. Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke puffed his chest out as he walked into the ring as his fangirls cheered him on, making the males cringe. Sasuke charged at Iruka, who sidestepped and then jumped up to dodge Sasuke's sweep kick. Iruka landed on the other side of the ring and dodged 3 kunai but was too slow when Sasuke landed a fist on Iruka's leg, skimming it. Sasuke stopped, giving his emo smirk while panting. Wow, Sasuke, a new record for the class so far at 32 seconds. Iruka praised, causing his fangirls to go crazy, making him regret he said anything. Next, Natsumi. Natsumi walked toward the ring passing Sasuke and slapped his hand away as he tried to grope her. Walking into the ring she bowed to Iruka before she disappeared, causing Iruka to jump to the side, dodging her drop kick. Vanishing again and tried to punch Iruka in the stomach for him to block. Jumping back she threw 3 shuriken at him, causing him to jump to the side. Natsumi saw her chance and ran at Iruka straight at him, getting ready to block, but to his surprise Natsumi at the last second slid under his legs. And used a wooden pole to swing herself around and kick Iruka in the back. Good job Natsumi, you just beat Sasuke's record time at 28 seconds. This caused Sasuke to scowl and his fan club to go into an uproar, saying she cheated. Natsumi walked up to Naruto, who gave her a ghost of a smile. Wow, Natsumi-chan, you really have been hold back on me in our spars and could have seriously given me a run for my money. Natsumi blushed at Naruto's praise but kept it to herself and watched as Iruka got pummeled by Sukina, Makoto, and Phi. Nali Kushina drawing blood, and they all beat Sasuke's time, making said Uchiha furious. Naruto, you're up next. Iruka grunted. Before Naruto entered the ring, Mizuki walked in telling Iruka he'd take this one, saying as he was hurt and all. Iruka nodded and stepped out of the ring, missing Mizuki give Naruto a glare. Naruto walked in with a blank face. Begin, Iruka's voice said, and as soon as he said it, Mizuki charged Naruto, surprising everyone. As he was about to punch the blonde, he vanished, reappearing behind him with his right foot cocked back as if he was going for the game-winning soccer goal. His foot made contact with his and his balls, sending him flying out of the ring holding his jewels as he soared above the class and hit the pink-haired banshee that was coming back from the bathroom. Wow, 2 seconds, was all Iruka said. Oh, okay, everyone inside for the final part of the test. Iruka said, letting out a breath he was holding while covering his own jewels like the rest of the males and some females in pity or whatever their sick reason was. Once inside the class, Iruka called up the students as each performed the required jutsu except Sasuke, who made 5 clones instead of 3, and the girls, who made 10 just to piss him off. At the end, each one of them had headbands except a few civilian students. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto walked into the room with Iruka and Mizuki, who had an ice pack to his balls sitting at the desk in the front of the room. Okay, Naruto, can you perform a kawarimi with the log in the corner, then do a henge? Iruka said kindly. Doing the kawarimi with the log, and immediately after turned into the 4th Hokage. Looking closer, nothing really changed except that he got taller, his hair grew out a little, and he wore different cloths. After seeing Iruka scribble down something on his paper, he released the henge. Now Naruto, we need you to make at least 3 bunshin to pass. Iruka, is it okay if I make different types of clones? Naruto asked in a monotone voice. Sure, but we didn't teach any other types. Iruka said. Naruto put his hands for the seal and made 5 clones, not just any clone but one for each different element. Seeing Iruka's jaw drop, the teen let out a ghost of a smile. I'm sorry, Naruto, but we can't pass you since you could not perform the basic bunshin. Mizuki said with a smirk. What do you mean, Mizuki? Of course he passes. But, and that's final. Iruka said, glaring at his assistant's stupidity. Come get your headband to prove you're officially a Konoha genin, Iruka said proudly. Walking forward, the blonde picked up the only black headband out of the whole set and tied it around his forehead but let his bangs fall over it. Walking out of the room, Naruto noticed everyone else left except for his only 4 friends, so he walked over to them. Naruto, you passed, that's great, now we can celebrate. Exclaimed both Kushina and Natsumi, dragging Naruto out, but not before giving the 2 Uchihas a look that said, I'll be broke why tomorrow? They both just sighed and followed the 2 Uzumaki girls. Naruto walked into Ichiraku's with the 4 girls following, and he took a seat. Ayame walked out to take the orders and smiled when she saw them. Ah, Naruto-kun finally taking an interest in girls, I see, Ayame said smugly. All 4 girls blushed while Naruto's face stayed unchanged like he was in an eternal game of poker. So what will you have? Quote, miso for me, Makoto and Sukina, and Naruto started before he got interrupted. Salt ramen for me, Kushina said enthusiastically. I second that, Natsumi replied with a smile before her and Kushina looked at each other. And keep 'em coming, both Uzumakis said simultaneously. After 2 bowls for himself, Makoto and Sukina, and 5 for both Kushina and Natsumi, Naruto paid the bill, leaving his wallet bare, making him frown, but pushed it aside as he saw someone jump across the rooftops in a hurry as if trying to escape. With what seems to be a giant scroll. Naruto inwardly smiled, knowing exactly what was happening, turned around seeing the girls talking amongst themselves. I have to take care of something. If I don't come back, that means I went home. He jumped off before they could ask him where he was going. Naruto started to pick up speed, seeing the traitor run into the woods. He smirked. You just sealed your fate. Landing in a tree, looking down at the form of Mizuki, taking a breather, not noticing he was being watched at all. Naruto jumped down, startling Mizuki, making him jump up ready to defend himself. Well, if it isn't the demon himself, you know you made it hard for me to steal the scroll when I tried to fail you so hard, but now I get the pleasure of killing you, ridding this village of demons like you. Mizuki started laughing like a madman. Naruto, as quick as lightning, was behind him, sword drawn, and stabbed him through the heart, spraying blood on his hoodie and some to go on his face. Mizuki looked back in shock at the cold blue eyes before he went limp. Naruto pulled the sword out of him, agonizing pace, and swatted the blood of before it disappeared in the seal on his arm. Walking to the spot where the fool left the scroll and crouching down for a better look. Pulling out a hidden blank scroll from his orange hoodie. Going through some hand seals, he slammed his hands on the ground and a seal array surrounded the scrolls as they both opened, as the information was transferred in about 20 seconds before he picked up the small scroll and it vanished as it disappeared into the hidden seal in his storage pouch. Walking back to Mizuki's body, took everything of value he had and sealed it. Then, taking a single kunai, he cut himself on his arms and shoulders and once on the leg, not flinching once, and then put the kunai in Mizuki's dead body's hand. Suddenly there was a rustling from the bushes before Uruka and two Junin came out and looked at the scene. Naruto, did you kill him? Uruka asked, not taking his eyes of the now dead body that once belonged to his assistant. Yes, he attacked me near here, hence the wounds, so I ran into the woods to this spot where I surprised him, and as a last resort he tried to do a suicide move, so I killed him, Naruto lied fluently. Well, good job Naruto, but I think we can take it from here, so maybe you should go home and rest for today. Nodding, Naruto started heading home. As soon as he reached the compound, he walked inside and headed up the stairs, not even sparing a glance at the family sitting around the table talking and laughing. Table. Setsuna looked at Naruto as he walked up the stairs and frowned. Seeing all the cuts on his arms and blood-soaked hoodie, Setsuna didn't like Naruto that much, no matter how much she denied it, but still wanted the boy to be part of the family. Minato dear, why is Naruto coming home bloody and bruised? Did you begin his training? Setsuna said, taking a bite of her meat. No, I didn't start his training, but don't worry about him, most of that blood isn't his. Minato said calmly, causing his wife to frown and kids to stare at him. What do you mean that's not his blood? Setsuna said, wondering what he meant and whose blood that it really was. Before I came here, one of our shinobi, a Chunin, betrayed the village and stole the scroll of sealing. As he was making his escape, he attacked Naruto, then took some damage and ran into the woods, and then ambushed Mizuki and killed him and recovered the scroll of sealing. Minato said, slightly proud even though he knew he had no right to be. The twins looked at their father with slight jealousy. They never talked to Naruto when they were younger and liked to tease him when they got the chance. When their training started, Naruto made himself scarce, making them think he didn't want to have anything to do with them. Oh okay, and Minato, why is Naruto always scarce in the house? The only time I see him is when he leaves in the morning, and when he comes back he goes straight to his room without dinner or saying hi, and he doesn't socialize, so I'm also wondering if he has any friends. Setsuna said. Ka-chan, Naruto has friends, but they're only 4 girls, but even then he is just quiet around them and he only speaks when spoken to or just ignores whoever. Arashi said, looking at his father, who smiled at him. So he doesn't have any male friends, but I thought you two were friends. Minato said, getting interested. No, whenever I try to talk to him he just ignores me and cows me and walks away. I don't know why though, Arashi said. Do you have any clue as to why? Setsuna said, also interested at her son's behavior. Arashi tried to remember all the times he and his sister tried to talk to their older brother. Flashback. Hey dumbass, how about you teach us something? Naruto Baka want to be my target for target practice. Why are you such a loser? You should be more like us, then maybe you'll get some friends. Flashback end. No, not a clue. Arashi and Kaumi said simultaneously and then started to laugh as Minato said a funny comment. Written by NPC fan. Setsuna got up and slipped away unnoticed up the stairs while Minato and the twins were talking and laughing together, and made her way to Naruto's room. As she approached his bedroom door, she felt an ever-increasing wave of apprehension, knowing that the conversation that she and her son were about to have would likely be a very uncomfortable one, if the hurt and anger she saw in his eyes was any indicator. Stopping when she reached the door, she swallowed to try to get rid of the lump that was growing in her throat, and raised her fist and nervously knocked. After waiting a few seconds for Naruto to answer, she was surprised to see a seal array that covered a very large central portion of the door glow in a mix of bright blues and greens. She noted that it was extraordinarily complex in its design, but two functions that she could see that it served were to lock his door and trap sound within the room so that nobody outside the room could hear what was going on inside. She knew that no other room in the house, not even Minato's library, had such a seal on the door, causing her to wonder how it got on this one. Did Naruto apply this seal to his bedroom door? She thought to herself, realizing that with what she'd heard in the past couple of days about just how strong he's become without her or the others' knowledge, she knew next to nothing about the full extent of his skills and capabilities. It began to bother her that she didn't even really know her son at all, and as she continued pondering the seal, she thought that it was likely that Naruto applied a seal like this to his door because he didn't trust anyone in his family. As she spent a few seconds pondering this, the seal began to blend back into the door. Almost immediately after it disappeared, the door cracked open just enough for her son to peek an eye out the door and look both ways. His gaze through the crack in the door came to his mother's face as he asked, "Are you alone?" The guardedness and suspicion that she could hear in his tone caused her to flinch a little. She tightened her lips and nodded. Naruto opened the door and ushered her inside. As soon as she entered, he quickly but quietly closed the door. She watched as he reapplied the seal on his door, but decided to say nothing about it, believing that if this conversation was to go in any positive direction at all, she would need to tread very carefully. She took a moment to look around the room, frowning in surprise and sadness at how Spartan it was. It lacked the inviting feel of the rest of the house. Even the twins' rooms had posters and various toys, knickknacks and other things that kids tend to keep in their rooms, and the last time that she was in this room, he had a few of those effects. Yet another pang of guilt clenched her heart as she realized that she hadn't set foot in this room since he was 6 years old, and it had been long before then that she had ever come up here for a good or kind reason. All she saw was his bed, his chest of drawers, and a desk and bookshelf that she didn't remember him having before. She turned to look at Naruto with the same surprised and saddened frown, only to see that, other than a single raised eyebrow, he had the same cold, emotionless expression on his face that she usually saw on him. They simply looked at each other, neither of them breaking the silence for a few moments. Coming to the realization that Naruto wasn't likely going to be the first one to say anything, Setsuna asked, "Naruto. Why?" Naruto frowned ever so slightly in confusion at this, keeping the iciness in his tone as he asked, "Why what, exactly?" Setsuna felt that guilty pang in her chest again at his guarded and suspicious tone. She glanced downward for just a moment, before bringing her glance back up to his and speaking again in an even tone, being careful to not sound angry in the hurt and guilt she was currently feeling. "Why won't you come eat with us when we invite you? Why don't you ever say anything to your brother and sister anymore when they try to talk to you? Why don't you talk to me or your father anymore? Why don't you spend any time with us in the living room as a family? Why?" She raised her hands to her sides as though gesturing to the room around them. "Why don't you have things in here that other kids have in their rooms? Why is that seal on your door?" As she asked these last two questions, tears filled her eyes and her voice began to quiver and break. She realized that this was the first time that she had asked him something that didn't have anything to do with her or the family, but only about him. She noticed that as she was asking these questions, Naruto's outward expression didn't change, but she did notice the same flash of pain and isolati. On followed by cold anger appear in his eyes several times. She decided to finish before waiting for him to speak. Naruto, we're trying to reach out to you right now. We want you to feel like you're part of the family. I mean, this house is your home, too. Naruto closed his eyes and looked down, his bangs covering his eyelids. Setsuna could only guess what he was thinking right now, and she honestly wasn't sure she wanted to know. Despite this, however, she felt a need to hear what he had to say, regardless of how it might hurt. She took a moment to rein her tears in and collect herself. Naruto, she said, in a quiet tone. Naruto didn't respond, his eyes remaining closed and his gaze remaining down. Naruto, please, look at me, she continued, her tone still quiet, but now almost pleading. Naruto sighed, opening his eyes and returning his gaze to his mother's face. Setsuna's tone seemed to become even more pleading, her voice breaking again as fresh tears began to roll down her cheeks once more. Or as she said, asked, say something. Naruto could no longer hold his icy, blank expression anymore. He looked at her in disbelief as he responded, and just what exactly do you expect me to say? To any of you. You say you want me to be part of the family. Where the hell did this come from? Setsuna flinched at Naruto's verbal onslaught, her tears becoming more pronounced as she began to sniffle as well. This certainly hadn't been what she was expecting, but she simply waited and tried to listen as he continued. You've had 13 effing years to help me feel included in this family. You want me to say something? Fine, I'll say something. I'll start by answering your questions. The reason I don't eat with any of you is because more often than not, when I tried to eat with the family, you'd send eat a bed hungry. If I relied on Namikaze family mealtimes to get my food, I would have starved to death. Involuntary sobs started to escape Setsuna's throat at this point. As she remembered back to all of the times that she would send him away without anything to eat, she began to realize that he wasn't exaggerating. He may very well have starved to death if he hadn't started going elsewhere for his meals. Naruto didn't stop there. You ask why I don't talk to you or my father. When I did try to talk to you, you acted as though you wished I didn't exist at best, and at worst, you did all you could short of beating me to get me out of your sight. His tone took a bitter, cynical and sarcastic quality as he added, though, I'm sure that's probably only because I got the message before you could go that far. Naruto continued, you ask me why I ignore the two spoiled rotten brats you call my siblings when they try to talk to me. If they had anything to say to me that was actually worth listening to, as opposed to just calling me names, asking if they can use me as a target for kunai and shuriken practice, are demanding that I teach them my skills when they give absolutely nothing in return, I would interact with them. As far as spending time as a family, when have I ever been family to any of you? You haven't treated me like family for as long as I can remember. The reason I don't have things in here that other kids have is because nobody in this family has ever given me anything like that. Never a single birthday present, never a single toy, nothing. You say this is my home. What a effing joke. A home is supposed to be a place where you feel accepted and safe. I don't feel safe anywhere in this evil house except in this room, and that's only because I can keep all of you out indefinitely because of the seal that I put on the door. And no, I'm not going to tell you all of its features, because I don't trust any of you. Setsuna broke down more and more as Naruto flung accusation after accusation at her. What hurt the most was not the venom that he had directed at her. What hurt the most was that she couldn't defend or debate anything he said to her. Everything he said about her was true. She tried to speak, her sobs causing her to stutter, and Naruto, so Sochi, this angered Naruto. She had never acknowledged him as her son before, But she continued before he could interrupt. I know that I haven't been a good mother to you. As she started to get control of her sobs, the stuttering began to cease. I haven't even been a mother to you at all, and I'm truly sorry for T. Hat. But, please, the sobs came back full force as her voice broke once again. I'm trying now. Can't that at least count for something? Please. She finished as she continued sobbing. Naruto just stood there, looking at the sobbing, broken woman before him. His own eyes began to well up from years of buried anguish that she had just brought back to the surface. Setsuna sobbed even harder as she saw his anguish, now much fresher and more intense than the flashes she saw earlier. She tried to reach out to him and hug him, but he raised his hands and backed away in an effort to keep her at a distance. She looked hurt briefly by this, but she nodded in understanding at his reaction. After a few moments, Naruto spoke in a quiet tone that belied the effort he was putting forth to keep his composure. Do you even appreciate what you're asking me? You've ignored me, and abused me for as long as I can remember, and you want me to forget all that, because you started reaching out to me. He used his fingers to put the phrase in air quotations, yesterday. Setsuna simply closed her eyes and hung her head in shame. As she opened her eyes again a few seconds later, she had noticed that Naruto had turned his own gaze from her. After a few more moments of tense silence, she responded, "You're right, Sochi." As she said this, that same flash of anger returned to Naruto's eyes as he brought a hard gaze to her, interrupting her train of thought. She suddenly realized why he got angry. I've never called you that before tonight, have I? She asked, her own horror at herself evident in the tone she used. Naruto's gaze and turn of his head away from her answered her question. Is it okay if I call you that? She asked, in a hopeful tone. He answered her in a cold tone. I'd prefer if you just used my name, Setsuna. Setsuna, hurt by his impersonal use of her name instead of calling her Ka-san, simply nodded, accepting that she had lost the right to be acknowledged by him as Mom. Naruto-kun. Naruto's eyes flashed red with anger at this at first impulse, but as he realized that she was at least in here making an effort, lowering his gaze as he prompted her to continue. And continue she did, in a low, hoarse tone, having run out of tears to shed for the time being. I can't defend or deny anything you've said about me. If I were in your position, I wouldn't trust me, either. Quote. Setsuna took a couple of deep breaths before continuing, and you're right that one day of effort in the right direction doesn't erase a lifetime of wrongdoing. I can't speak for the rest of the family, but I want to try to do right by you, if you'll give me the chance. I'd like to spend more time with you, and I'd like for us to get to know each other. She hesitated for a brief moment, before continuing, I hope that one day, you can call me Ka-san. But I know that right now, I have no right to expect that. Naruto-kun, what can I do to earn your trust? Naruto's expression became very thoughtful, as he began to ponder hard on this turn of events tonight. I don't know how to answer that, right now. I really need to think on this. Quote. Naruto turned his expression to Setsuna once again. I'm going to have to ask you to leave now to clear my head. I'd appreciate it if you didn't let them know. Setsuna nodded as she responded, okay. I won't. If they ask, I'll just say I left you in here. I guess I'll see you later. Naruto nodded as he moved to the door and released the seal on it, opening it for her and allowing her to exit his room. As she exited into the hallway, she turned around, and before he could stop her, she kissed him on the cheek before softly wishing him a good night. She smiled in gratitude at him before walking away toward her own room to retire for the night. Naruto simply stood there for a few moments brushing his fingers against the spot on his cheek where she kissed him, trying to savor the unfamiliar yet comforting sensation. Remembering all the hate, he dragged his nails over his flesh, drawing blood, but stoked as he came to his senses before closing his door and sealing it. He then proceeded to unseal the hidden scroll in his weapons pouch and let a smile grace his face as he started to look through the jutsu. NCP fan writing over. Next day, Naruto got up of the floor and stretched, looked at the time and saw he had half an hour before he had to go to the academy. He walked to the wall above his small bed and touched it, sending chakra into, and then the wall opened up, revealing a secret compartment. Putting the copied scroll into it and then resealing, he took of his still blood-soaked orange hoodie and dropped it into a hamper in the corner. And then walked into the bathroom, took a shower. After a 15-minute shower of getting the blood and smell of death of him, he walked out with a towel, getting a set of new cloths he's been saving for this very day out. He started to put on a pair of Junin pants and a long-sleeve black Junin-styled shirt. Next he put on a Junin-styled vest with 2 pockets on the front and the Uzumaki badge on his left upper arm. Taking some white bandages, he wrapped them around his waist to put pressure on his self-inflicted wounds to fool Iruka, and then strapped on a rectangular kunai pouch over the bandaged waist. Then taking 2 more pouches and strapped them on the back of his waist. Taking a few storage scrolls filled with various things for survival into his vests. Lastly, picking up a 1-foot sheath combat knife and strapped it onto his left shoulder, and picked up his headband and tying it onto his head firmly, and then slipped his feet into black shinobi sandals while putting a pair of black fingerless gloves, and walked out of his room and downstairs. Naruto reached the bottom of the stairs and headed to the door. Naruto, how about some breakfast with the family before we all go to the academy together? Setsuna said with a small smile for her eldest child. No thanks, I have to be there a little early to get a good seat. Naruto lied and opened the door, not even giving them a glance. Okay then, well, come with you then, since we just finished. Setsuna said, getting up with the rest of the family following. Naruto just kept walking without waiting and was already at the front gate. The walk was kind of quiet as no one wanted to ask why Naruto looked like he was going to go to war. As soon as they were on the academy grounds, a few clans heads whose children were friends with Arashi and Kaomi came to talk. Naruto took this moment to try to get away, but was stopped when Minato put his hand on his shoulder and gave the other family the signal to follow after saying goodbye to He clan heads. As they walked up the stairs silence, they got to the class and walked inside to the class. Everyone stopped and looked at them. Hello Arashi-kun, Kaomi-chan and Hokage-sama. The entire class said to their leader and the twins. Naruto's eyes turned crimson, which didn't go unnoticed by the class, making them all shut up. Minato coughed to get his kids' attention. Well, I just wanted to say good luck on your first day. Minato said to his 3 kids and gave them a fatherly hug and looked to Naruto to see he was already walking away. Naruto, good luck to all be watching, Minato said to Naruto as he was walking up the aisle to the last row. Naruto stopped and turned around with a cold glare with his now slit red eyes, making it look like he was about to kill everyone. So they chose now to know I exist? Well, it's too late for that now. Noticing he was accidentally releasing a small amount of ki, quickly stopping the flow, some of the other students who passed started to breath again. Seeing he was drawing too much attention, he turned around and kept walking, ignoring the looks, and sat down next to Kushina and the other girls. Naruto, are you okay? Kushina asked worriedly. Naruto looked at her and put a forced smile, shocking everyone except the 4 girls. Even though it was a forced smile, it was the first time anyone saw him smile. Kushina knew, like the other girls, that when he forced a smile meant he was okay. Minato frowned and left the room with his wife in tow. Iruka then broke the silence and started giving his speech about being shinobi. After he finished his speech, he said he would announce teams. Class, this year we are going to do something different with some of the teams. Every once in a while, when Konoha is in a time of prosperity, we have 2 teams made 3 times the size of a normal team. These teams are called supercell teams. These teams are not based on being overpowered or underpowered. If you are pleased on these teams, it is considered a great honor, and the last member picked for the team will have the most potential to be a leader and will be the genin captain. Naruto looked bored by his speech and became quiet, not listening to him. Now the first supercell team will be Team 7, and the members are Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno. Iruka started but was interrupted by Sakura. Take that, Ino pig, true love prevails. Sakura screamed, making the males cringe. Sakura, shut the hell up. Now, as I was saying, the next members of the team are Arashi and Kaomi Uzumaki Namikaze. Then the next members are Kushina Uzumaki, Natsumi Uzumaki, Tsukina Uchiha, and Makoto Uchiha. At this, four heads hit their tables, all thinking, damn, we have the emo king, Banshee sidekick, and the twin horrors. And the last member of the team will be Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Iruka finished proudly, waiting to see Naruto's reaction, but it looked like he wasn't even listening. Hiba shot out of his seat. How come Sasuke, Arashi, and that baka Naruto get all the hot girls on his team? As soon as he said that, a kunai flew over his head right through Akamaru's legs, cutting some of Kiba's hair, and his dog, scared for being 1 inch from being neutered. Hiba immediately sat down. Everyone looked at Naruto, who was staring out the window, and turned around looking at the class with his emotionless face. Oh, okay. Team 7 captains will be Kakashi and Hayate. The Junin assistants will be Yugao Azuki and Anko Mitarashi. Team 8 will not be formed. Team 9 will become the next supercell team, even though it is still in circulation. The team will consist of Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamaiki, Ino Yamanaka, Hiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame. You will team up with the previous Team 9, whose members are Rock Lee, Tenten, and the genin captain will be Neji Hyuga. The team leader will be Metagai of Team 9, and his Junin assistants will be Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai Yuhi. That is all. Your new sensei and senseis will be here shortly. Iruka finished and sat down. One by one each team left, leaving Team 7 the only one left. Right now Naruto was looking out the window while the four girls were in a conversation about the latest gossip. Sakura was pestering Sasuke to go out on a date with him while he ignored her existence, and the twins were trying to find a way to talk to Naruto. After 2 hours, the door opened, revealing a man with gravity-defying silver hair and dressed in the standard shinobi garb and had a mask that covered his mouth, and he had his headband brought down to cover his left eye. Yo, you're late, screamed the pinky-haired Banshee. My first impression is that I hate you, Kakashi said. Everyone glared at Sakura, making her shrink down. Now I want everyone to head to the roof to introduce ourselves, and, is one of you missing? Kakashi said, scanning the room. Everyone looked to where Naruto was sitting and found the spot empty. He must have left. Kushina left deadpanned. Well, just go to the rooftop. Everyone headed to the roof and were surprised to see Naruto already sitting there reading an advanced fire element jutsu scroll. He turned to them once before continuing to read. Everyone sat down across from Kakashi and two women with purple hair. One had her hair done into a short spiky ponytail. She wore a mesh bodysuit that was covered up by a tan trench coat. She also had a tan-colored shorts that stopped at her waist, and she had her headband tied around her forehead. ND had blue ninja sandals. Wow, the blonde over there is pretty handsome. I wonder if he's good in bed. What do you think, Yugao? Anko said in a sultry voice, making the women blush. The other purple-haired women with long hair, now known as Yugao, wore standard Anbu attire, which consisted of a black low-ing sleeve shirt and black Anbu pants. She then had gray shin guards and knee guards. She wore a green Junin flak jacket with the top zipped a little down to show her D-cup outline. Anko turned around to face the group, seeing Kakashi passed out from a hidden nosebleed, two redheads and two ucha. Girls that looked like they wanted to kill her. Arashi and Kaomi blushing along with Sakura, who had a small nosebleed, and lastly Sasuke, who looked like he was brooding but his massive bloody nose said otherwise. Naruto just sat there unchanged from the dirty talk as he read his scroll. After 5 minutes Kakashi regained consciousness and clear his thought to get their attention. Okay, let's start of by introducing ourselves, be saying our likes, dislikes, hobbies, and our goals or dreams. Quote. Sensei, can you go first so we can see how to do it? Sakura said. She's supposed to be the smart one, Kakashi thought. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I have many likes and I dislike the things I dislike, and I have many hobbies and have no current goal. Kakashi finished, making everyone sweat drop at the lame introduction. Anko decided to go next. My name is Anko Mitarashi. My likes are dango snakes and cute guys. Winks at Naruto, who ignores her. My dislikes are a certain snake bastard and rapist. My hobbies are torturing people, making them ream out in agony, and my goal is to get all the dango and cute boys I want. Anko finished smiling and looks at Naruto seductively. Naruto looks at Anko, his expression unchanging, but in his mind he was thinking, holy shit, this bitch is crazy. My name is Yugao Azuki. My likes are kenjutsu and gardening. My dislikes are rapist, perverts, and bastards who don't think women can be strong. My hobbies are practicing my kenjutsu and doing missions. My goal is to eventually become an Anbu captain. Oh, and I'm 16. Yugao finished. Kakashi cursed inwardly and looks at Yugao. Damn, too young. Okay, Pinky, you're up. My name is Sakura Haruno. My like are looks at Sasuke and blushes. My hobbies are looks at Sasuke and blushes. My dreams looks at Sasuke and squeals, and my dislikes are Ino. Pig and that baka Naruto. Sakura yelled. Okay, you next, duck. Kakashi said, causing said Uchiha to frown. My name is Sasuke Uchiha and my likes are training to get stronger. My dislikes are a certain someone. My goal is more of an ambition, which is to kill a certain someone and restore my clan. At the last part he looks over to the 4 girls now huddled around Naruto. Next. Our names are Arashi and Kaomi Uzumaki Namikaze. Our likes are to train with our Ka-san and Tu-san. Our dislikes are perverts and bastards and someone who continues to ignore us no matter how hard we try to talk to him. Our hobbies is training and our dreams/goal is to become Hokage after dad. They both finished saying everything at the same time, creeping everyone out. Nice. Now next. Our names are Kushina Uzumaki, Natsumi Uzumaki, Tsukina Uchiha, and Makoto Uchiha. Our likes are Naruto-kun and Tr. Aining with Naruto. Our dislikes are perverts, rapist, bastard how think they're better than everyone else because of their clan, and our dreams are to all become the best shinobi we can be and eventually get married. They all finished with a smile and a blush, freaking everyone out more than the twins did. You are up, Captain. Naruto put the scroll he was reading all this time into his vest's front pocket. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Quote. 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 That's it. Everyone's sweat dropped at his even lamer than Kakashi's introduction. Kakashi got up from the railing he was seated on and walked in front of the 2 purple-haired women. Tomorrow we will have the real Genin exam, which has a failure rate of 66.6%, at Training Ground 7. Oh, and don't eat anything or you will throw up and be there by 10 in the morning. And Naruto, your job as Genin captain is to make sure everyone follows these instructions. Kakashi finished and disappeared in a swirl of leaves, followed by Anko and Yugao. Naruto got up and walked in front of the group, confusing them all. Tomorrow come an hour or an hour and a half late and eat breakfast and be combat ready. With that, Naruto vanished in a swirl of leaves similar to Kakashi and left. Next day, Training Ground 7. Naruto made his way to Training Ground 7 with 10 minutes to spare. He was wearing the same attire as yesterday and put seal on the cloths so they won't repair themselves if you put any fabric near them, which gets absorbed and then used to repair the outfit. As he walked into the training area, he saw the group standing next to 3 wooden stumps. As he walked up to the group, the girls minus Sakura and Kaomi waved to him. He couldn't help but notice Sukina's new attire. She had her dark violet, almost black colored hair that went to her mid-back with some coming over both shoulders and onto her C-cup outline. She then had a single bang come down the middle of her forehead in between her violet eyes and stopped just to the left of her nose. She wore a dark violet, almost black short-sleeve shirt and biker shorts that stopped at her lower thighs that matched her unique hair color. She had a pale pinkish-colored no-sleeve blouse that hugged her body and had her headband tied around her waist with the metal plate on the right side rather than the center. She also wore black fingerless gloves like his, but hers went up to her elbows. Lastly, she had black spandex socks that stopped just below her knees and wore black shinobi sandals over her socks. All in all, he had the decency to blush, but it went unnoticed to his liking. "So did you take my advice?" Naruto asked, hoping they did while not showing it, knowing it will be easier. "Yes, we did, but they didn't," Sukina replied for the group. Just then 3 people appeared in front of the group. "Are you ready to start the exam?" Quote. Kakashi's voice asked from behind the group, causing them to look back. "Yes, we are ready," most of the group said. Naruto just nodded and stood with his arms crossed with his emotionless face. He didn't really care about what kind of test it was, he was only focusing on trying to gain ranks as fast as he could. "The point of this test is to get these 8 bells from us before 3 p.m. If you don't get a bell by then, I will tie 3 of you to those posts while we eat lunch in front of you," Kakashi said, making Naruto's eyes narrow. Sensei, why are there only 8 bells when there are 9 of us?" Sakura asked, making Kakashi eye smile at her. "That's because one of you will be sent back to the academy, and if none of you get a bell, you will all fail and never be allowed to become ninja. Also, there are no rules, anything goes, so come with the intent to kill," Kakashi says, walking to the center of the field with the other 2 Junin and Genin following. Kakashi then tied 4 bells to his waist and gave 2 bells each to Yugo and Anko. "Ready, the exam starts now." At that, the Genin disappeared, making Kakashi think they at least know when to hide, until they saw Naruto standing in front of the 3 Junin. "Well, aren't you the oddball in the..." Kakashi didn't get to finish as Naruto started to go through hand seals at Junin speeds. "Oh, Anko said, but didn't get to finish as Naruto finished going through his hand seals, stopping on the tiger seal. "Fire release. Fire dragon jutsu." Naruto then blew out a massive dragon of fire and it then looped around Naruto once before it flew towards the 3 Junin, hitting the spot where they were standing. Each of them land next to each other only to dodge the fire dragon that got back up and charged them again as if it had a mind of its own. Naruto, seeing the dragon had done its part in distracting them, started running at them slowly, then he flicked both his hands in a downward movement and 2 5-foot swords came out from under his sleeves. The 2 swords were the type that were a little thick but could be retracted and hidden easily. Charging at the Junin, now only 20 feet away, he vanishes, moving at low Chunin speeds. He appears in front of Yugo, slashing down at her only for her to draw her own sword and block. Doing a 360-degree turn, Naruto slashes in an arc motion with his second sword. Yugo jumped back, but Naruto followed, not letting up, going from academy-level moves to high Junin moves, then back, making it impossible to predict where he would attack next. Kakashi sees Yugo starting to be overpowered. He jumped in to help and told Anko to go test Sasuke, Sakura and the twins. Naruto, seeing Kakashi, turned around, slashing at Yugo to keep her at a distance while doing a side kick at Kakashi, who be locked. He had to then jump back as Naruto was about to punch him in the face while still holding his other sword. Naruto then put one sword behind his back to block Yugo's sword. Turning around quickly, he tries to slash at Yugo with his other sword only for it to be blocked. Yugo then swung at him, making him duck, and then he slashed upward. Yugo, seeing this, did a front flip over the teen and slashed to her side as she landed, making him go on the defensive. Naruto cursed. Damn, using my swords is useless now that I don't have the element of surprise. Time to do Somethi. Ing drastic. Putting his hands together, said one word. Kai. Suddenly his body became very light as the gravity seal went from 15 to 0. Naruto jumped at Kakashi, punching him in the stomach, making him skid next to Yugo. He got up and slowly reached his hand up to his headband, but before he could, Naruto was on him, forcing Yugo to block, making him jump back from the two. Naruto made a hand seal, and suddenly Kushina, with her sword drawn, and Natsumi with two kunai, stood in front of him, acting as a wall between him and Yugo. Kakashi was surprised at this kid, who was supposed to be only average in the academy, pulling off such a chakra-consuming jutsu and then showing some of the finest swordsmanship. He may be better than Yugo herself. Naruto, seeing Kakashi distracted, made another hand signal, and both Sukina and Makoto appear with their Sharingans activated with one tomo in each eye, surprising Kakashi. Naruto, seeing both Junin distracted, started going through hand seals, and on the 100th hand seal, the sequence taking 2 miles. Newts stopped on the dragon seal. Elemental release. 5 Dragons Wrath. Naruto yelled. Hearing this, all 4 girls retreated into the woods, confusing the 2 Junin. Suddenly the sky got dark over the training grounds, and lightning flashed and the winds picked up. The only thing holding the Junin down was the chakra in their feet. The lightning flashed and a single bolt hit a tree, causing it to burst into flames. Rain started to pour, but strangely the fire kept getting bigger. Naruto looked winded, like he would fall over any second, but forced himself up to see 5 dragons appearing. A dragon made of fire stepped out of the burning trees, a water dragon formed from all the rain water, a dragon made from earth in front of the 2 Junin, a wind dragon flying overhead, and lastly a lightning dragon came out from the center of the clouds and landed in front of the 2 now scared shitless Junin. Naruto smirked, looking at the display. This was the first time he performed the jutsu successfully without falling unconscious. It was a jutsu only he could do because he created it, and it requires having all the main elemental affinities. Just then Makoto appeared next to him and held him up. Naruto looked at what was happening to see a water dragon fighting his water dragon while a lightning one fought his lightning dragon. While this was going on, Kakashi was running away and dodging the fire dragon's blows, and it wouldn't disappear no matter what he threw at it. Yugo wasn't doing much better, as she was trying to outrun the wind dragon and failing miserably. Just when the dragons were about to finish them off, the timer rang, and at that the dragons looked around before they simultaneously exploded into what they were created from. At this the Junin sighed and walked to the stumps and waited for the rest of the team to join them. After 15 minutes the entire group was there, with Sasuke, Sakura, and Arashi tied to the posts. Congratulations, you all fail, Kakashi said cheerfully. The whole point of this exam was to show teamwork. The only people who showed this was Naruto and his girl followers. Arashi and Kaumi showed teamwork, but only with each other, and the rest I don't even want to talk about. Now that you're done with your explanation, can I show you something? Naruto said, drawing all attention to him, holding a bell, shocking everyone. Before anyone could say anything, he pulled out 4 more and handed them to Kushina, Natsumi, Sukina, and Makoto. Then he handed his own to Kaumi. Also, for insurance, I borrowed these from my father's personal library, Naruto said, pulling out a scroll and unsealed 3 orange books. Kakashi looked at the books with want in his eyes, but noticed there were only 3. So Naruto, you have insurance for 8 of you, but what about yourself, and how do you know I want those when I have my own? Don't be so sure about that. Naruto pulled out a 4th book, making Kakashi, Enko, and Yugao's eyes to widen. How did you get all of those bells in my book? During my Kenjutsu match with Yugo, when I did that side slash before I attacked you to get you to back away, was really to cut the bells unnoticed. My shadow clones that I hid under the ground before any of you came grabbed them before you noticed. As for how I got your bells and book when you were being attacked by my dragons, didn't you notice that one was missing? My lightning and water dragons were already preoccupied. My wind dragon was after Yugo and fire after Kakashi, but the earth dragon was not in play. Naruto explained in his emotionless voice. Just then an earth dragon came out of the ground under Naruto so that he was sitting on its head towering above them. I had my earth dragon go underground stealing your bells and book while the fire dragon was keeping you distracted. Naruto finished. Anko looked up at him, seeing one thing wrong with his explanation. I think Kakashi would have noticed if a giant clawed hand was reaching into his pockets. Just then the dragon shrank until it was the size of Akamaru and jumped on Naruto's head, going to sleep, making the girls sq. Yule at how cute it was while Anko just shut up. Kakashi smiled. Good job Naruto, but you still fail for not following orders. Now can you tell me why you told the team to eat and come late? Kakashi finished seriously. I won't give my team orders that will potentially ruin the mission before it even starts, as it could get us killed. Naruto finished. You know what we have to say to that. You all pass. Kakashi, Anko, and Yugo said, making the girls cheer and the Banshee to ask Sasuke for a date to celebrate. But got rejected. Naruto, what was that jutsu that you used? I've never seen it before and it's obviously A rank or higher. Kakashi asked. It's my own personal jutsu that I made. It first makes a storm that can create all the necessary elements to make the normal elemental dragons, but instead ends a portal which the dragons you witnessed come from. I don't feel like sharing or allowing you or the Uchiha brat to copy it. If you could use it, the dragons would probably kill you and the enemy because they are like summons and not ordinary elemental dragons like yours, Kakashi. Naruto finished coldly. Dope, I command you to teach me that technique and force your dragons to bow down to me and serve my clan. Sasuke said with his smirk. Naruto looked like he was about to kill him, but the small earth dragon beat him to it. It immediately jumped and swung its rock-hard tail in between the prick's legs, causing him to grasp his family jewels. Sakura screamed. Well, we have to report to Hokage-sama, so you're free to do whatever you want. Naruto, make sure everyone meets up at the Hokage Tower for our first mission at 10 in the morning. Yugo ordered the team before she, Kakashi and Anko disappeared via Shushin as fast as their feet could take them. Naruto turned back to the group, seeing the two redheads and two Uchiha girls looking at him, while Sakura was tending to Sasuke's balls to her pleasure while Sasuke was unconscious. Lastly, the twins were staring at him intently, which they happened to be doing a lot of lately. Sakura, stop molesting Sasuke before he wakes up and tell him where and when to meet us tomorrow morning. Naruto said in his monotone voice, then made his way to the gates before he stopped and motioned his hands toward the girls he knew were following him out. But before he left, he dropped the perverted books and let them on fire with a small fire jutsu. Naruto walked through the village at a leisurely pace, with the girls just walking around nonchalantly, not caring where they were going. People looked at the group, murmuring things like, "Poor girls, the demon must have tricked them into following him," though Naruto really didn't care. Hey Naruto, how come you never took any of us to your room? I'm kind of curious what it's like, asked Kasumi innocently as possible. Naruto looked at her like she was crazy, and the other girls got really quiet to hear his response. Why does she want to go see my room? It's nothing special. Single quote. Why do you want to see my room? There is a bed, desk, bookshelf, drawer, and a personal bathroom. Naruto was getting bored even though he didn't show it. Well, that's boring, and speaking of boring, what should we do? Kushina asked. I have any idea. Let's go and gamble, earning some money to go shopping, Sukina says as if she's done it before. That's a great idea, let's go Naruto. All three girls agree to Sukina's plan and got on both sides of Naruto, grabbing his arms and dragged him to the nearest casino. Naruto, while being dragged, was deep in thought. These girls are a bad influence on me, and not to mention that, Betting money is going to come out of my wallet. Well, more like Mizuki's. After 10 minutes, Naruto looked to where he was being dragged, and to his surprise, it was the Golden Leaf Hotel with a large casino on the upper floors. The girls then released Naruto in front of the counter to look at the manager. How may I be of service today, Naruto-san? The manager asked warmly, giving them her best smile. The girls frequently dragged Naruto here when they were bored, and the manager took a liking to Naruto, letting them go in for free. They always paid him back when they leave the casino. But seeing as they were officially shinobi meant they could go in without being questioned. The girls behind me forced me to come, so I guess I'm heading into the casino. Naruto stated, placing 10,000 ryo on the counter and walked through 2 double doors. After 10 minutes in the casino, Naruto walked back out to where the girls were talking with each other in the lobby. Even though no one knew it, Naruto was probably the best gambler in Konoha, even though he didn't know how to play most of the games, and when someone cheats they usually end up broke in front of him. The girls finally noticed Naruto just in time to catch 4 little bags. Each of the girls opened the bags and squealed from seeing 50,000 in each of the bags. Well, I'm going to go have dinner now. If you want to join me, you can come. Naruto says, walking out the door, not waiting for an answer, but the sound of the door opening 4 more times answered his quest. Ion. After 5 minutes of walking, they entered the business and richer side of Konoha. Naruto, where are we going? Makoto asked, getting curious as to why they were going for dinner. Naruto didn't answer her, which ticked her off, but kept walking until he stopped abruptly. Naruto turned to the right and walked into the building, shocking all the girls. Naruto, this is the Golden Leaf restaurant. It's the most expensive place to go. Why would you bring us here? Kushina asked, amazed as her and the girls follow Naruto to the check-in counter. Why, hello Naruto, usual table today I guess. And who are the lovely ladies behind you? The man asked. They're friends, and yes, usual table, but for 5 and stop smiling at me. Naruto replied emotionlessly, but had a hint of a smile outlining his face. Why would I stop smiling when the kid I've known to be a social outcast brings not 1 but 4 pretty girls on a date here? The man replied to Naruto while leading the group upstairs to the top floor. It's not a date, it's a celebration/dinner for becoming official Genin and Genin captain. Naruto replied. Congratulations to all of you. Well, anyways, here you are. He said, pointing to a 1-person table, confusing them all but Naruto and the waiter. Naruto walked over to the table and started going through a few hand signs, and then put his hand on the table, and in a puff of smoke the table was large enough for 6 with chairs for all of them. Naruto took his seat at the end of the table while the girls sat across from each other on either side. After a while, Naruto saw yellow and red enter, making him frown and look outside at the full moon. Hey Naruto, what will you and your friends be having? Oh, and sorry I took so long. All of the staff are trying to make your father's meal perfect, so they are kind of forgetting the other customers. The waiter stated apologetically while taking a pen and pad out.